Floyd Money Mayweather versus Kostya Tszyu, going out to Mardik Azachi. I hope I said your name right. If I butchered it, please forgive me and feel free to correct me. But anyway, they requested Floyd Money Mayweather versus Kostya Tszyu, the Thunder from Down Under. What a tremendous matchup. I wanted this matchup to take place back in the day. I was sure that it was going to take place. Floyd Money Mayweather called out Kostya Tszyu. Money Mayweather is often accused of cherry picking, but sometimes I wonder if these people were following him 20 plus years ago when he was coming up the ranks, when he was calling out these big fighters. And Floyd Money Mayweather called out Kostya Tszyu at a lighter weight. But anyway, Kostya Tszyu versus Floyd Money Mayweather. I think this would have been a tremendous fight. We all know how great Floyd Mayweather is. We know how skillful he is. He's known for his speed, his reflexes, his defense. He's perfected the Philly shell defense and the shoulder roll. So love Money Mayweather or hate him, he's a tremendous fighter and he's a legend. So he really doesn't need us to tell him that he's a legend, and because he's accomplished everything that he set out to accomplish, and it is what it is. But as great as Money Mayweather is, as fast as he is, Kostya Tszyu was an extremely dangerous fighter. Kostya Tszyu had a unique style, and Kostya Tszyu had one of the best 1-2 punch combinations ever. It was something about his fighting style that nullified speed, which is why this would be a dangerous fight for Floyd. Of course, we know about his legendary knockout against Zab Judah, and Zab Judah was lightning fast. He beat Sharmba Mitchell twice. Sharmba Mitchell had to retire in the first fight from a knee injury, if I'm recalling correctly. And of course, Kostya Tszyu stopped Sharmba Mitchell in their second fight. So it's something about his style that nullifies speed. It's something about his timing that nullifies speed. So with that being said, this is a pretty even matchup and a dangerous fighter for Floyd Money Mayweather. Now, if you were to take everything into consideration, I've already mentioned the skills, the styles, the talent. Floyd Money Mayweather would be the logical choice. And I'm leaning towards Floyd Money Mayweather, but I think that this fight is worth going into a little more detail because it's just not that simple. I don't think that Floyd Money Mayweather is going to dominate Kostya Tszyu without some risk. Floyd would have to be extremely careful. Floyd would have to be on his bicycle the whole fight. He would have to use his footwork, and he would basically have to fight the perfect fight. Stay off of the ropes, stay out of the pocket, stay out of the corner. Use your footwork. Don't stand and trade under any circumstances. Just don't go toe-to-toe with Kostya Tszyu because he has the timing to get you. He has the power to get you. And you have to watch Kostya Tszyu's body shots too. It just seemed like everything Kostya Tszyu threw was stiff. It was hard. It was authoritative. Even his jab, he didn't throw one light punch. Just anything that he threw, it had some mustard on it, as we like to say. All his punches had mustard on it. So, of course, Floyd is the more skilled out of the two. He's the quicker out of the two, and he's just the better overall fighter, if you want me to be honest. Floyd Money Mayweather is just the better fighter. But as I said, there's some risk in this fight. Kostya Tszyu's pressure. So Floyd would have to be on his bicycle, but at the same time, hit Kostya Tszyu with something to gain his respect earlier. One thing you want from Kostya Tszyu is respect. You don't want Kostya Tszyu just walking through your punches. This would be an interesting fight. We know that for all of Floyd's skills, for all of his talent and for how good he is, one thing that has always troubled him is pressure. Now, Kostya Tszyu doesn't have the mauling pressure like Castillo, like Ricky Hatton, like Maidana. It's more smart pressure. It's more technical pressure, for lack of a better term. But it's pressure. And yeah, his punches are just hard. So Floyd doesn't want to get clipped too many times in this fight. Unfortunately, this is boxing where things happen. And the best fighters get hit. You're not going to go through a 12-round fight and not get hit. You're going to get hit. That's just the reality. Yeah, so if Floyd fights his fight, if he brings everything to the fight, if he pulls everything out in this fight, I can see him edging out a decision. Or even, I take that back. I can see him winning a comfortable decision. But Floyd just pot shot this whole fight. Get the points, walk away with the win. Don't try to look impressive. Don't try to get into a firefight to please the fans. At the end of the day, winning the fight is the most important thing. So just pot shot, just move around the ring. Don't let Kostya Tszyu corner you. I'm going with Floyd Money Mayweather by unanimous decision. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think, and I will see you on the next video. Okay, there's corruption in boxing, but there's corruption everywhere. There's things that are unfair in boxing. Life is just unfair. Now, I'm not attempting to give an excuse for these things that are unfair, but sometimes we can take it too far. What do I mean by that? We know there's robberies in boxing, and we know that there's corrupt judges, corrupt referees, corrupt fighters, corrupt officials. And once again, there's corruption in everything. And there are fights to where you can tell it was a robbery because it was clear cut that it was a robbery. It was clear that the guy that didn't get the nod dominated in the fight, or that he was up by a significant amount of points. But there are close fights that can go either way. There are close fights that are debatable, that we can debate for eons. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Marvelous Marvin Hagler is one of those fights. Triple G versus Canelo, both fights, is one of those fights. And there's close fights. And don't get me for saying this one, but Lara versus Canelo, one of those fights. And then there's clear robberies like Paul Williams versus Ellis Londe Lara. I never say his first name correctly. That fight, it's obvious that Lara won that fight. And George Foreman versus Shannon Briggs also comes to mind. It was obvious that George Foreman won that fight. But what gets me is we want to call everything a robbery now. We want to call every fight fixed now. For the simple fact, we don't like the results. Now, that's not right. Like I said, without debates, you don't have boxing, in my opinion. Debates makes it interesting. Debates engages the fans and it engages the boxing public. But you can't call everything a robbery simply because you don't like the results. One example, Manny Pacquiao was robbed against Floyd Money Mayweather. Come on. Anytime Canelo wins a fight, close fights in particular, it's a robbery. Canelo can knock a guy out and people will call it a robbery. Whenever we don't like the results, it's a robbery. Now, we as boxing fans have our biases. I have my biases just like anyone else. I'll give certain fighters a pass that I won't give another fighter on. Just being 100% real. We all do it. It's human nature. We flock to our favorite fighters and we defend our favorite fighters. We'll we'll show mercy to our favorite fighters, mercy that we won't show other fighters. I get it. I totally get it. But at the same time, we have to get to the point to where we're in the realm of reasonable, to where our claims aren't so outlandish that they're far from reality. And we can be biased, but sometimes we have to put our biases down and look at something for what it really is. I'm a big Deontay Wilder fan, huge Deontay Wilder fan. But Deontay Wilder got dominated by Tyson Fury in 2 fights. I happen to agree with the draw in the first fight, but the second fight and the third fight, Tyson Fury dominated. There's no way around it. There's nothing I can say to refute it. I saw the fight. You saw the fight. So we can't always look for a reason why the fight went down the way that it did. Now, we can talk about things like game plan, lack of game plan, abandoning the game plan. The other guy just had the better game plan. The other guy just had the style to get the job done. But we're coming up with too many conspiracy theories. Performance enhancement drugs. You know, that's one debate I don't like to get into because it's all speculation. I don't have enough knowledge on the subject to really forge an opinion, nor do I really want knowledge on it. I mean, you don't know who's doing what. You don't know who's doing what. But there's always an explanation. They didn't fight at the right time. They didn't fight at the right prime. It's always something. And sometimes the results are exactly what the results are. Sometimes the judges have it right. Sometimes they may have it wrong. It's human nature to be wrong. Sometimes they may be corrupt. It happens and it's not right and it needs to be addressed. But we're calling fights, or we're calling decisions robberies that really aren't robberies. It was just a close fight that could have gone either way. We're calling draws. And some of these fights are really draws. Sometimes these fights are even down the middle. They really are. But because our guy didn't get the nod, now it's automatically a robbery. Just be honest. Just look at the fight. Just look at things objectively sometimes. And we all have our favorite fighters, but just be objective sometimes. Sometimes you know that wasn't a robbery. And sometimes it's clear that it was a robbery. So let me know what you think on this subject, and I will see you on the next video.